committee to order. We'll start it with roll call. Alder Eck.
Here.
Alder Presley.
Here.
Alder Ritterbusch.
Here.
And myself, Alder Delise here. Let's do the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll start it with our first item, approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve. Oh, second.
Motion by Alder Eck.
Second.
Second by Alder Presley. Any questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I hope so. Next up, approval of the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from August 13th, 2025.
Second,
Motion by Alder Ritterbusch, seconded by Alder Eck.
to be exact.
Any questions or anything on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. On to regular business. Number 1, consideration with possible action on the request by Alder Johnson to review and update the city ordinance 28.37 related to violations for tree removal and all correlating ordinances and adopted policies that impact the penalty for violating 28.34 or other unspecified ordinances related to public shrubs and trees. Director?
Yes, so I was hoping Alder Johnson would be here to kind of maybe review the details of what his communication was to give us a little more guidance as far as what he wanted us to explore. But what I did include in the agenda packet was the general ordinance as it relates to trees and removal of trees. I did highlight in yellow the areas that pertain specifically to trees in that chapter of the ordinance. And then I also included a copy of our policy where we address unauthorized tree removals. And you've seen that policy in the past when we had an individual who requested us to waive the fee for a removal of a tree. That's the same document I provided in that agenda packet. The only thing that I did not include in the packet is our calculation sheet of how we actually calculate out the fee for the tree. But it is based on size, quality, and species of tree. So if you have particular questions on how we calculate it out, our city forester is here. He can speak to the ordinance, the policy, or how we calculate out those fees in more detail than I can, if you have those questions. But without Alder Johnson here, I guess I'm not sure which direction you'd like to go with a motion here. It can either be just refer it to the next committee and hope that he's able to attend that meeting. You can refer it to staff and direct me to reach out to Alder Johnson for more discussion as far as what he's looking for. And then maybe we can bring back a recommendation after I have a one-on-one discussion with Alder Johnson regarding this topic. Or if you think that the policy and ordinance and the way we calculate out trees are fine the way they are, you can always receive and place it on hold. So those are the 3 options I see ahead of us without having Alder Johnson here.
Alder Eck.
Thank you, Chair. I'm probably make a motion not this, to refer to, or to hold it till our next meeting, but my thoughts are, I feel like it should somehow be married together, like the policy may be added as part of the ordinance to make it more clear, because I don't think, like the attorney shared, that it wasn't real easy to find the policy versus the ordinance. So kind of maybe somehow including that, but I know he had some concerns about they're getting fined and charged for the tree, like 2 different things instead of making it one thing. So something to consider. I believe that's part of what he's looking for, based on, I mean, you guys can help me if, you know, interpret what he said, but is trying to either do one or the other, not both. And for me, I would probably go with the higher amount, not the fee, as much the citation fee as the charge of the tree itself, but that's a thought. And also, what I was talking to you before the meeting is getting a little more specific about your fee structure and how you determine the cost or the value of the tree might be helpful.
Sure.
I'll make a motion to hold until the next meeting of Parks.
I have one thing. I
I'll
agree.
second it.
I agree with Alder Eck on, I feel that stuff isn't really married together too well. The other.
Oh, he's here.
Oh.
You're
Good
correct.
We
my
just made a
motion.
The
motion to
other-
hold it.
The other piece of it that I don't completely agree with is the fact that we're finding the individual, but then we're also charging them for the cost of the tree. I think it's gotta be one or the other, or it's gotta be a one together price. I feel like they're kind of double dipping on that, and I understand that a person needs to be held liable for destroying one of our city trees, but I think we need to make it more fluent.
And I will say that it's pretty rare when both of those fines go out. I think that was kind of the exception, not the norm. Typically, we go forward with this assessed value of the tree. We present them with that invoice, and typically they pay that. And it's pretty rare when you get kind of the second one thrown on top of it. And I think that happened in this situation because maybe there was some miscommunication, or maybe not all the parties were talking to each other when they should have been. But Brian might be able to answer that better.
Yeah, so we do use this policy in the appraisal for various reasons. If there's tree damage, if there's a public or a private improvement request that does pertain to a public tree. So if somebody wants to widen their driveway, and there's a tree right in the location where they want to widen it. So the two, the fine and then the tree appraisal, are separate because of that reason. So it'd be very similar to somebody has a car accident and then they cause damage to something. So they're going to get a moving citation for the vehicle infraction, right? And then they're going to have the liability of causing the damage. So if it's a malicious intent like this was, where it was an illegal tree removal, there's a citation that's issued for that, plus the loss of value to the city because it's a part of the infrastructure. So that's kind of the reasoning for that.
Alder Eck?
Thank you. You said malicious intent, this was, and not, you know, that's kind of a hard thing to prove, malicious intent, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So just
Yep.
being careful, because I
Yep.
think she indicated it wasn't, but.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. I mean, we do get cases where there is intent to harm the tree. There's cases where it's a misunderstanding and they didn't know the rule. Again, improvements to, we get requests. So we have, in the removal policy, we do have the removal, dead, dying, disease, and dangerous. Those are qualified. We will cut that tree down. There's no fee. There's nothing that the tree should come down. If it's an unsupported request because of a nuisance issue, tree roots, anything that doesn't meet that dead, dying, disease, dangerous requirement, then the tree appraisal process would be put in place, where we do a tree appraisal. If the homeowner feels comfortable and wants to pay for the amount of the appraised value of the tree, then we'll take that tree down, you know, for that reason too. So it does come into play in several different reasons. Like Dan said, we don't always have that citation. That would only be if there was like vehicle damage that they were cited for a moving infraction, if there was intent to harm, injure, kill the tree type thing, just because there is that intent there, so.
In light of him coming, maybe we need to, well, we didn't vote on it, so.
We didn't vote on it. Alder Johnson, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I put it in is really, obviously the conversation at council is what sparked this. So I think there was some language in the ordinance that definitely needs to be cleaned up. So I would simply request that it gets referred to staff and then brought back. There was some language in there I don't have it in front of me, but it was kind of like, it's either this or this. And quite frankly, their lawyer was making a very good case about why both could not apply. And I think if we clean that language up, meaning the citation or the fee, right? And then the other thing that I had concerns about were that it's not published anywhere what that fee is and how it's calculated. So most of the fees that we have in the city, they're either in the ordinance or it's part of our annual fee schedule. And so I do think we need to talk about transparency around that, because some folks, if they remove that tree, they could receive an invoice $10,000 or more. And imagine as a homeowner getting an invoice of that size and not really having any transparency published anywhere about how that's calculated. I know there's a reference to I forget the organization that does it, but I do think having more information around that would be helpful. I don't know if the fee schedule is necessary, if it's tracking a national industry, but something that creates, again, just a little bit more transparency around how that's calculated.
Yeah, and even if we are able to kind of post the formula somehow
Yep.
publicly, so that at least people see what factors do we take into account. And if they want to run their own numbers on, how big of a tree it is, they can, and then still decide to take down a tree without authorization, at least they would have that calculated fee that they can come up with.
That's why I thought a referral to staff would they can work some of that out and probably engage the law department around any ordinance revisions that might be necessary. Because I think, Dan, you said at the meeting, it's been quite a while since this was looked at, so, and just bring it back and when it's ready.
Alderek?
You came in and we had I just want to say some of the things we talked about, just so you have an idea, that talking about kind of combining or, like marrying the policy to the ordinance so that it's more clear, because it's easier to find the ordinance than it is to find the policy, and, kind of combining those a little bit, and then being more specific about how they charge the rates for the trees. And inside of the ordinance, or the policy refers to the guide for plant appraisal. So there is something they use, but again, that was part of what we're suggesting.
Policies are oftentimes very handy, for us or staff, but it's not oftentimes the thing that the general public looks to. So if the ordinance could be updated to maybe capture that information as well, I think that would be useful.
So is that helpful? Because, basically referring to staff, they're just trying to get an idea of what we're looking for, so.
Yeah, and I trust staff will make the right recommendation on the best approach to achieve what we're talking about, which is why I don't think we have to necessarily solve it here.
Yeah, and I think policies typically aren't online for the public to kind of look at and view and comment on, but ordinances are. So that's something that we can, like you said, try to marry the two if we can into the ordinance. If we can't, figure out what information is relevant to the public for them to know, maybe above and beyond what's in there now. So now that we have a better idea of kind of what you're looking for, it gives us some direction to put some recommendations together.
Dan, that formula that's used to calculate the value of the tree, how is that? Is that just like an annual number that gets put out by an association, or how does that work?
No, it's an individual calculation that's done for every tree, because it takes into consideration the size of the tree, the diameter of the species, the condition of the tree, the location of the tree.
But what are the variables that are used to calculate that?
That is the variable. So we measure the diameter, the trunk diameter of the tree.
Sorry, let me rephrase. The variable meaning the number, right? Because
Dollar amount.
right, you might get all those dimensions, right? But how do you get to the dollar amount?
Yep, so it's part of the formula process. A basic value is determined using all of those parameters. And then from there, the condition and the location, actually you have a base price, which is a huge price. It's based on the area of, cross-sectional area of the trunk. And then deductions are made based on condition, because nothing's 100%, so it's taking it down from that basic value.
So is that base price though, is that established by this third party?
By the formula, yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's been in existence since 1951.
So kind of like what insurance carriers use to
Yep,
to
yep.
value trees?
Courts accept this process, insurance carriers accept it for loss values. Yep.
Okay.
So I make a motion to refer back to staff to take all of these items into consideration.
I'll second that.
All right.
Real quickly, I just want to mention, knowing that's established by the third party, it probably doesn't make sense to have this be part of the fee schedule. The reason I was suggesting the fee schedule is if it's like using our labor costs, for example, right, to calculate that value, then that can change from year to year. That's one thing, but if it's established by a third party, then it might just be that reference in the ordinance.
All right, we have a motion to refer to staff in a second. Is there any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Informal director's report on updates and
We have a
receipt.
second.
We did
Oh, I missed one. Sorry, number 2, consideration with possible action on accepting a grant from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for $1,700 to go towards half of the cost of a prescribed prairie burn at Henesra Park.
So, if you're familiar with Henesra Park, we have an open area on a hillside. It used to be the yard waste facility. Many years ago, we kind of graded that smooth and planted grass species in there. Since then, weeds have taken over, and there's a desire by the Conservation Corps in the neighborhood to convert that to a formal prairie. So that's the initiative that we're looking at doing there. So last year, we went in and we did some grazing with goats to kind of get rid of a lot of those invasive species. That was really successful. We've already done that work and paid for that. So we recently were contacted by U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and we talked to them about various initiatives of projects that they could team up with us on. And this was one that they were interested in. They said they had some funding available. This would be a great project for them to team up with the city on this initiative. So they are willing to give us a grant of $1,700 to put towards half of the cost of a prairie burn either this fall or next spring. So the city would be responsible for the other cost. We do have that in our budget, and we can accommodate that additional cost. As part of that, we're required to do $2,000 worth of in-kind services, and that'll be done by the Conservation Corps, so it'll be like seed preparation and planting and ongoing maintenance and stuff, but that's not an actual dollar value. It's just an in-kind contribution of $2,000. And then beyond that, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and then Golden Sands, RC&D are providing the prairie seed to do the planting. And so that's valued at $2,750. Now, that's not part of the grant. The only part that's part of the grant is the funding for $1,700. So I'm recommending accepting the grant award so that we can proceed with the project. And like I said, you could expect, if weather conditions cooperate, we'll do a prairie burn this fall. If they don't cooperate, we'll do a prairie burn next spring.
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. And I should add, the items we discuss at the meeting and vote on will be recommendations to the Common Council for final approval. The next Common Council meeting will be on Tuesday, September 16th at 6 p.m. Informational, Director's Report on updates, recent activities.
So I wasn't able to attach this to the agenda until last night, so I apologize, or until yesterday when I amended the agenda, so I apologize if you haven't read it over yet, but there's not a lot to highlight in this one other than summer winding down. Pools are closed, summer playground program is done. Bay Beach is now only open weekends through the end of September. So summer's winding down and fall is gearing up. We do have a couple of exciting events coming up that you should know about. So we do have the Walk for Wildlife schedule, which is the largest fundraising event for the Friends of the Wildlife Sanctuary. I believe that's on September 18th, if I recall correctly, but I'd have to check here to make sure.
I thought it was the 22nd.
I was thinking. Yep. And then the other one is we're planning Ottertoberfest. So that's a new event that we're planning out at the sanctuary that'll happen in October. You'll see a lot more to come on that. We've already started advertising it on social media, but we're hoping to have good turnout from Oktoberfest. So that's all I have to add right now. Do you have any questions on anything?
All right, thanks, Director. Our next meeting is September 24th.
You do have to receive and place
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, we need to receive.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and place on file. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion carries, or motion to receive and place on file. Next meeting is September 24th.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Elder Ritterbusch. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, whatever